You know that massive multi-billion-dollar industry we call personal development? What if I told you the whole thing started by accident? Seriously, we're about to dig into the wild and really human story of the guy who kicked it all off, Earl Nightingale. And the question at the heart of it all is just kind of nuts. How does a guy's simple wish to go fishing for a couple of weeks accidentally launch a global movement? It sounds impossible, right? That's a direct quote from his wife, Diana. His big motivation wasn't about making millions or becoming famous or even changing the world. Nope, it was way, way simpler than that. Okay, so let's set the scene. You've got Earl Nightingale. He's running a small life insurance agency, and he is a master at firing up his sales team. But the thing is, he was getting burnt out. He needed a break. So here's the problem, right? Earl just wants 2 weeks off to go fishing on Lake Michigan. Simple enough. But his manager is absolutely panicking. He's convinced that without Earl's daily dose of inspiration, the whole sales team is going to fall apart, maybe even quit.
So, Earl's in a bind. He's desperate for that vacation, but he can't just leave his team high and dry. And then, the solution? It comes to him in the middle of the night. And trust me, this little idea would change everything.
And look, this was not some big strategic plan. It was a total flash of inspiration. He literally woke up, put on a pot of coffee, and just started writing down his core message. By the time the sun was up, he had this essay, and he makes a call to a buddy at Columbia Records with this super weird request. Hey, can you press just one record for me? Just for my office. And here's this little detail that I love because it just shows you how real this all was. Years later, his wife Diana found that original essay. And right there on the last page, a coffee ring. It's this tiny, perfect little artifact from that one humble, totally unglamorous moment where this whole thing was born. All right, so Earl leaves the record for his team, he goes off on his fishing trip, and he probably thinks, okay, problem solved. That's the end of it. But what happened next? Well, absolutely nobody saw this coming. And you have to remember, this wasn't a product. It wasn't a launch. It was just a temporary fix, a stand-in for a boss who really, really wanted to go fishing. So when Earl gets back, his manager tells him that record, it was so powerful, everyone wants their own copy. So, okay, he presses a few more. But then, those people took him home. They played them for their friends, and those friends played them for their friends. It was basically the original piece of viral content, long before the internet. And before he knew it, this one-off little record, The Strangest Secret, had sold over 1 million copies. It actually became the very first spoken word album in history to go gold. Just wow. And this is the key part. There was no advertising budget. There was zero marketing. It was just one person sharing it with another. The idea itself was so powerful that it just spread, all on its own. So suddenly, the demand for this record is just overwhelming. Earl is spending all his time just trying to fulfill orders. He'd accidentally created a full-blown business. And now he had a totally new problem. How the heck do I run this thing?
And then, in one of those classic right place, right time moments, he ends up sitting next to a mail order expert named Lloyd Conant on an airplane. Of course he did. They hit it off, they team up, and they formed the Nightingale-Conant Corporation. And for the next 20 years, Earl was the only voice for what would become the biggest personal development company on the planet. But then, around 1980, Earl decided it was time to open things up. Nightingale-Conant stopped being just about him and became a platform, a launchpad, really, for the careers of other giants in the field. We're talking people like Wayne Dyer and Jim Rohn. He basically introduced them to this huge new audience he built. And his reach just exploded. It became truly global. His daily radio show, Our Changing World, wasn't just a hit in the States. It was broadcast in 23 different countries. His voice became one of the most recognized on the entire planet. But what about the man himself? The guy behind that famous voice? You know, the kind of guy who would propose to a woman the very first time he met her. Yeah, that happened. And that story starts with how he met his wife, Diana. So Deanna was a successful real estate agent, and when her broker first handed her some of Earl's tapes, her reaction was, well, pretty blunt. She was like, I don't believe in that crap. She thought all that personal development stuff was just cheesy and kind of manipulative. But her broker just kept insisting. So she finally went home, put on the tapes, and had this huge aha moment.
a profound realization. This wasn't some cheesy sales pitch. She said it was like this man was speaking the words that were already inside her own mind and her own heart. Okay, now fast forward 11 years. Diana's at this mandatory meeting for work, and guess who the special guest speaker is? Yep, Earl Nightingale. She figures this is my chance, so she brings along a book he wrote that had inspired her all those years ago, hoping to finally get it autographed. So she goes up to him, he takes the book, he looks right at her, and his first question has nothing to do with the autograph. He just asks, "Are you married?" She says no. And without missing a beat, he smiles and says, "Would you like to be?" I mean, can you imagine? Her first thought was probably, okay, what a weirdo. But his explanation was just perfectly Earl Nightingale. He told her it wasn't some strange pickup line. In his world, after all those years of teaching sales, it was simple. He saw something he wanted, and he was asking for the sale. And you know what? A few months later, they were married. And that really brings us full circle to his legacy. Today, Diana considers preserving Earl's work to be her own worthy ideal. It's not just about some record or a big company anymore. It's about honoring the incredible contribution of a man who, just by trying to take a fishing trip, accidentally created an entire industry and inspired millions upon millions of people. It makes you wonder, right? What simple little idea of yours might just be waiting to be heard?